Hi, this is Dr. Culkin. I'm here to talk about Topic 2, Part B. While the colonists had come together to fight the British, it was difficult to develop a set of rules that would govern and meet the needs of the different peoples who made up the new country. The first attempt was named the Articles of Confederation, and it was approved in November 1799. After revolting against a monarchy, most colonists were suspicious of any centralized power, and as a result, states' rights were of critical importance in this arrangement. There was no separate executive branch, but only one single legislative body in Congress, which appointed a leader. And that leader did not have any veto power, so it really wasn't a particularly powerful position. It wasn't like our president today. There was also not a separate judicial branch. Congress had no power to levy taxes, but had to request contributions from the states. So as you might imagine, it was a little difficult for this government to have money on which to run. All states needed to agree to any change in the article, so that meant all 13 states were going to have to agree on any change. And since, as we read last week, they were very different, this was very difficult. After the Revolution formally ended, these states had even less to bind them together. As the country's debt mounted, many feared the 13 states might break apart, and this sort of grand experiment, as the founding fathers thought of it, was going to be a failure. By 1786, there was a concentrated movement led by James Madison to revise the rules governing the country. In 1787, men representing 12 of the 13 states gathered for a constitutional convention in Philadelphia. Rhode Island refused to participate. Through tense negotiations, a new constitution was hammered out. There would now be an executive branch, 2 houses of legislature, and a judicial branch. So I'm sure you heard about the separation of powers when you were in high school and middle school, and this is when they are developed. The upper branch of the legislature would have 2 representatives per state, no matter how many people lived there. The number of representatives for the lower house would be based on population, and this created a problem because in the southern states there were a lot of people living there as slaves. So how were those people going to be counted? Eventually it was worked out in something that's now referred to as the 3/5 Compromise, which dictated that in terms of population, slaves would count as 3/5 of a person. Now, at this point, only 3/4 of the state would need to ratify this new constitution, which made it much easier to get things passed. But that ratification still did not come easily. Those advocating it came to be known as the Federalists and were led by Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. Anti-Federalists argued that the new Constitution would lead to a federal government which was constantly expanding its authority and would threaten individual citizens' liberty. And again, coming so soon after a revolution against a monarchy, this was really a huge concern for the people in the colonies. In 1789, responding to these continuing concerns, James Madison introduced the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Collectively, these came to be known as the Bill of Rights, and I'm sure you studied them in History 10. They protect, among other things, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion. They were ratified in 1791, and they still continue to play a central role in our political discourse today. Now, of course, even with the Bill of Rights, it was a country with slavery and where women were given no official political voice, so it was going to be really centuries before the rights of all citizens were actually protected. Of course, remember to submit your reading questions and to participate in the discussion board, and I'll see you next week.